There's something wrong with the newspaper in my town. I think I'm going crazy. Okay, so before I dive into everything that's happened to me over the last couple weeks, I want to get a couple things out of the way. I moved into this town like 4 months ago because of a job offer. I was supposed to start working with this construction company. Second, I'm not going to give you my last name, but I will tell you my first name. It's Tom. I'm telling you this just in case, you know? Anyway, I moved here about 4 months ago. At first, the job offer seemed too good to be true. I was promised an apartment, full benefits, grocery deliveries like twice a week. I was told the town was small, and honestly it is. You know, I'm not used to living in a place like this. I mean, I saw the stars for the first time in my life when I got this apartment. And the apartment itself is nice. I have 2 bedrooms and a good-sized bathroom. I have no complaints about the accommodations. About 2 weeks after I moved here, I was told that I'd start my job at the end of the month. My boss told me that rent would be covered and gave me a list of things I needed for my first day. And as the end of the month came around, I decided to go out and buy a new pair of work boots. I figured this would give me a good chance to look around the town and maybe meet some new people. I was mostly right. The store was only a couple blocks from my apartment building anyway, so instead of taking my truck, I decided to walk. And the town's pretty cozy, you know? Like, everyone seems normal. Everything felt like it came out of a classic American novel. So anyway, I went and got my boots, and then on my way home I decided to stop at the store and pick up a local newspaper. When I got home and sat on my couch to crack the newspaper open, I could tell something was off right away. The story on the front page said, "New mayor elected," and then right below that, "Strange lights in the sky." By itself, those 2 things wouldn't raise any red flags. But the pictures just looked off. It's hard for me to put into words, but the photo of the new mayor looked old and new, if that makes any sense. I scanned the page for a date, but I couldn't find one. I figured maybe something went wrong when they printed it or something. After I gave the front page a good read, I put the paper down and I went to bed. For 2 days, I stayed home to make sure that I was well rested. At this point, I hadn't really bought a TV yet, so I figured I might jump on the opportunity and read some more. So on the way to pick up my new boots, I decided to go to the town library, and thought, why not? I could get a couple of books and a new newspaper. The library itself is beautiful. The wood looks very well maintained, and the giant stone lions on either side of the staircase were extremely cool to look at the first time I saw them. And heading into the library was just like walking into any other library. I don't know what I was expecting. The outside was so cool, so I thought the inside would be more done up. As I walked through the aisles and scanned the books, I could feel the hairs on my arms stand up. It was a weird feeling, something I hadn't really experienced before. It was almost like I was scared for no reason. As I pulled a book off the shelf and read the cover, I was extremely puzzled. For reference, I was standing in the history section. The book said, "To Mars and Back: How America Pioneered Space Travel." It sounded more like a science fiction book to me. And then there were a bunch of other books like this. They Live Among Us: Humanity's First Contact with God. Or The Secret History of the Roman Empire. As I went through and examined more books, I started to notice little scratches on the bookcase. They looked like little tally marks. I followed them down the shelf until I found some writing. "Turn back and go home" were scribbled on the shelf. I quickly stood up and clenched the book I was holding. As I turned around, I took one last look at the book I clenched in my hands before heading off to speak to a librarian. As I approached the counter, I swear to God, The woman behind the counter took my breath away. She was so beautiful, but it didn't seem natural. I could feel the hairs on the back of my head stand up as I got closer to the desk. It was at that moment I put the book down and left. There was something inside of me screaming at me not to speak to that woman. And as I headed out of the building and walked down the staircase, I noticed my hands were shaking. I was confused because technically nothing happened. I never bought a paper that day. Instead, I went home and went to sleep. Technically, it was mid-afternoon, and I had no idea why I was tired in the first place. When I woke up the next day and went to check the mail, I found a rolled-up newspaper at my front door. And I shit you not, I've been getting a newspaper every day since. At first, I was interested in reading them, but the more I read, the more I didn't want to read. At the end of the month, I was waiting for a call from my boss, but that call never came. I tried to call him, but his phone was disconnected. And as the next month rolled around, I kept getting the newspapers. I stopped receiving normal mail, and I stopped wanting to live in that damn apartment. 2 weeks into the new month, I decided to call it quits and move back. I was not getting that job, and my time here had been nothing but uncomfortable. So, I packed my bags and stormed outside to climb into my truck. I was planning on leaving that day. However, my tires had been slashed. So I did what anyone would do, right? I called the damn police. They came promptly, and once again I was met with the same feeling I had with the librarian. These men did not look real. Every inch of their faces looked fake. I mean, yes, they were people, but there was no hair out of place. They were perfectly symmetrical in every way. The whole time I was filling out that police report, my hands were shaking. My body was so tense I thought I was gonna fall over on the spot. Once the situation was handled, I ran back into my apartment. I was skipping steps as I went up the stairs. I felt like I could not get up those stairs fast enough. So, a couple hours later, I hear a pounding at my door. And I can't stress this enough, the pounding scared the shit out of me. "Who is it?" I screamed. "Please, I need help," a woman called back to me. I went to my front door, and I wish I could tell you I did not hesitate, but I did. I eventually opened the door for the woman. She was an absolute mess. Her makeup was running down her face and she was wearing pajamas. It'll sound so fucked up, but I was happy to see this woman. Her crying gave me comfort. She didn't look like the others. She looked real and natural. I asked her what happened and she told me her daughter had gone missing. I asked her if she called the police, but she said no. She said she wouldn't, and she told me her daughter wouldn't go to them either. I asked her what her daughter's name is, and she told me it was Zoe. We talked for what felt like hours before I told her I'd keep my eyes open. She thanked me and went back to her apartment in tears. As I closed and locked the door, I went to that pile of newspapers and opened the most recent one. I wanted to see if there was any mention of Zoe's name in the paper. The front page read, "Local man found dead outside of his home. No suspects." Below that there was another heading, "Local girl missing." I checked for a name, but it wasn't Zoe. They were the same age though. As I scanned the paper, I heard a scream coming from down the hallway. I stood up and I quickly rushed to the door. This time without hesitation, I ripped it open and looked down the hallway. And that's where I saw it. It was one of the cops, except it wasn't a man. He had tight skin, he almost looked like a walking skeleton. His eyes were bulging out of his head, and his arms were larger. "Sir," the thing said to me. I quickly turned and shut the door. I locked all 4 locks and I put the kitchen table up against that door. I haven't left this apartment since. I did call my ex, and she said she would come and get me, but I don't know how long I'll be waiting. If this is fear, I've had enough. I can't sleep, and I'm too scared to eat. It feels like my heart might explode, like my whole perception of reality has changed.